you all have taken us back to nature, like, you know how to eat food from the land.
And that's the other reason why I want to do this dish. Back to what you guys are doing, soul to the soil.
Soul to soul.
Soul to soil.
That was a shock for me because all those people was dealing with the things they had going on, and I didn't have time for that. So
It's great. And Kim was like, I don't eat anything with eyes anymore. And I'm like, girl, what the hell? Soil, come on.
Soil to soul.
There you go.
The Soul Table is where we gather when systems fail us, while community continues to hold us together. All around the table, we break bread, we remember our ancestors, and we get to carry forward those stories that shaped us. When we sit together at the table and share meals, we take time to acknowledge what's been happening around us, and we spend time imagining what's possible to grow together. These dinners hold stories of love, legacy, and land, told for us and by us. At its core, the Soul Table is about health, power, and belonging. This is where we gather and where our stories continue. The table is set.
Good afternoon. So basically we're gonna make a Louisiana dish called a courtbouillon. I'm from Louisiana. I like to do stuff by feel, by my hand. My name is JoElle Thompson. I am JoElle's father. Why did I choose this dish? I chose it because I think it's real simple, and especially for a young person who's busy and always on the go. It's a healthy dish because individuals that are gonna be eating with us tonight don't all eat fried food, and you know, or they're on some specific type of vegetarian type setup, or eating just fish and stuff like that. So I chose this. It's very palatable. It tastes good. You're starting to smell the onions and the bell peppers and the celery start to do their thing. And so, like I said, it should take no more than 45 minutes to do. One pot dish. Only reason why I'm just doing the fish this way because I want to get some additional depth in the seasoning in it. And so it just makes things go a little bit faster. Yes, ma'am. What's your question?
When you cook this meal, who do you remember or what do you honor or feel when you're making this?
Well, whenever I cook a meal and I start with the Trinity, I think of home. I think of Louisiana, Lake Charles, Louisiana, whether it be Gray Street where my grandmother lived, or Winterhalter Street where we were brought up first, or then finishing up on 910 4th Avenue, and then going to my brothers or sisters' homes now that we're all grown. And it just, the smell just reminds me of home.
On a regular day, we would have dinner. We just call Mr. Glenn, Miss Kimmie, be like, y'all not doing nothing? Y'all want something to eat? JoElle made a whole bunch of food. Come eat some food. And then I'll call Glenn and he'll be like, oh, I didn't know they would come to your house.
Did nobody tell me?
And then Kamyrn just be like, y'all hang out whenever I'm not home, but now she's home. And so we're together in here, and we're missing, I guess, technically one of our immediate family members that will be here at this table.
Who?
My brother.
Oh.
Technically.
Because I was going to tell you to call him on FaceTime.
Oh, yeah. But we're here with my mom, Patrice Thompson, in her home house that she grew up in as a little girl. Miss Kimmie and my mom grew up together as little girls here in Memphis, Tennessee. And she used to live in South Memphis before y'all left Memphis at one point in time, huh? And then came back. And then, so my two cousins that came out of here. Ding, Mr. Glenn.
You the immigrant.
This is an immigrant from down the road, from Jackson.
From Madison.
But this is Mr. Glenn Vaulx II. But we got Lil Glenn and Kamyrn, and so Lil Glenn and Kamyrn and I and my brother, we all grew up together. I guess technically as a third generation of our family's connections. But our moms grew up together. And then coincidentally we found out we were cousins, I don't know how many umpteen years later after we were born, huh? And y'all knew each other. Yeah.
After we were
Just
married.
recently, right? It took Glenn to make the actual connection.
Oh, yeah, the historian.
But when I used to visit my cousin, she would tell me that we were related, but that was before she passed, and before we got married.
Who?
Bobby Stokes.
But we just
That's
never.
Tell you who was related though.
Because I remember telling her when we went down to meet your parents, when I went down to meet them for the first time, I came back And she was like, yeah, they live around the corner and we're related, but she couldn't tell me how.
So that's always the funny story to me is when you all took Kamyrn up to Brownsville, and I think your
My
grandparents
granddad.
were asking about Johnny Vaulx, and she was like, "Oh no, him." Come to find out,
I mean, we were literally
she
7
was like, "I didn't know." She said, "I just thought it was young."
Yeah. Where's your we talked about Mr. Glenn being from Jackson. Where are your parents from?
My mom was from Camden, Arkansas, which is southwest, close to the Louisiana border. I think some of her people started off in Louisiana and then came to Arkansas. I'm not sure how or why. My dad is from Crawfordsville, Arkansas, which is right past West Memphis, Arkansas. My dad's parents lived in Crawfordsville, and so every week we went to visit them, usually every Sunday after church. And because we lived what was considered on the other side of town in Memphis at the time, and the church was over here, we would pack everything for the day in our car, go to church, then go to Crawfordsville. My parents always packed all of their pots and pans or Tupperware, and we would bring all the food back that my grandmother prepared, and we ate on that all week.
Oh wow.
So that was my
That's good eating.
Oh,
It's typical stuff: greens, chicken, baked chicken, fried chicken, chicken and dressing, turkey and dressing.
She cooked the big game dinner too.
Yeah, there was a huge wild game dinner that they hosted in like Marion and Earl and all those areas, and it was all these businessmen and all that. My grandmother prepared all the game that they for that dinner.
The raccoons and deer and different things like that, and she would cook it all. And her grandparents had a farm too.
Yeah, you said something earlier about land, and so that's something I usually get a little sad when I think about this. But my grandparents owned lots of, not lots, but they were landowners in Arkansas over the years as they got older. And I guess my parents were taking care of them when they got older, and so my dad sold a lot of that land, and so I wish that we still had some of it. But
Yeah. Grief will show you a lot of things, I would say.
your uncle.
And the reason I say my granddad, because in a lot of ways, with losing my uncle, my grandparents were still here, and that was a lot of struggle that started to arise, building up into my grandfather's death. But I would say with the restaurant was where it really kind of like, I recognized my like care and love for my family and how that like related to like a level of responsibility that ultimately like became so much more real than it would have, it was prior to him passing.
Well, I feel like the reason why I said that's kind of a deep question. The struggle for me was when my brother died suddenly, 6 months before he turned 50, and he had not been sick. And to have my son to have just gone away from college. No, he had just left home, going to school. And he hadn't been gone. He left in July. Roman died on September 5th. So we're talking about 3 months. So that was a major struggle.
We are experiencing a phase of life that everybody has to go through at some point, but it's still fresh for us. Losing people who have always been around, parents who have always been around, and now they're gone and we're having to figure out how to carry on. And so whether it's a tragic and sudden death or an illness that has taken people away, our lives are not the same as we've, known them. And so we're having to figure out at this point in our lives, how do we keep going? How do we look forward to the future? And we do that through you all. We're living, I don't want to say we're living our lives through you all, but we are enjoying the fruits of our labor, watching you all thrive and carry on.
I was going to say distance is like a struggle. I mean, like not living here, not being in the South, and missing like certain things that I grew up with, and then losing people while being distant and being away and having things that I'm chasing after and wanting for myself, and knowing that the people that came before me wanted for me as well. So it's that like tug and pull of going far, but also remembering where you came from. And but I know I still like pull from here, and I need this. And I think I learned that through the struggles of like losing close family members and being away at the same time. That simultaneously was difficult, but it brings me a lot of joy to know that like I'm still aware of everything, that I know that it's gonna feel like love and feel like home to me, and I'm not like lost, you know, and unaware of what home is. So it feels like love to always like to have a craving for something, to be like, oh, I'm craving fish and spaghetti right now. But knowing that I don't eat, even my dietary choices have changed over the years because of what I've been exposed to and what I'm not around anymore too. So, but even when that like craving or feeling or holidays come around and you just want something, and having the choice to change how I eat and say, you know what, I'm gonna eat eggs again because I miss a deviled egg, or I miss seafood.
But that's a level of struggle in family that you kind of showed love, because like one thing about like me and Cam's relationship, I always thought it was weird. We were like in 5th grade and Cam was like, I don't eat anything with eyes anymore. And I'm like, girl, what the hell? Like anything that walks, I don't eat anymore. I'm like, what? Okay. And literally, anything after that, like as we got to the point where I started hosting and started making sure we had food and like I'm like, Dad, we gotta make sure we got something that don't have meat in it because Kamyrn don't eat meat. And like to me, that's a good example of like love and how like even when Mr. Glenn said like your chosen family, like who you choose to show up for, who you choose to care for, because you do love them, because I do know that you want to still be able to indulge in some level of what we're eating. You know, I made cabbage without meat.
They would do the same too when I first started to.
But now it's second nature,
like that.
especially when when I know that you're going to be there, it's second nature to make sure. But even when you're not going to be there, so many dietary restrictions now.
Yeah.
We try to have like things that, you know, accommodate, you know.
Well, and I'm proud of you all, you and Glenn and Kamyrn. I mean, because you all have taken us back to nature, like, you know, teaching us how to eat, you know, how to eat food from the land. Because Kimmie, even though my folks had gardens and they did it, I've always been a city girl. I'm not sure why I ended up with these country people, but my folks had gardens and stuff, but I did not indulge. So
all your mother ate when she came to New Orleans was chicken.
Oh, you said a baked potato every night with some broccoli.
Yes, that was it.
With a chicken tender.
Chicken
That's
fingers.
where I got it from.
I mean, chicken.
But even when I was
We
growing
be
up,
in the
'cause
best seafood places. Chicken.
but you know when I did eat it, like somebody hosted something at Dookie Chase.
And that's when we tried.
And well, I had
What
to
was it?
because Mrs. Chase was sitting right next to me.
Right next to you. Oh,
And
I'm embarrassed.
the pressure was on.
I was taught you don't
You're
go,
educated.
you don't go somewhere telling somebody
Punch
what
bowl
you don't eat,
had you.
especially the people that
They
it wasn't a
prepared
punch
you.
bowl. This is I grew up this
No,
way.
I'm just well,
Like,
your mother. We
when-
talk about punch bowl, but your mother, y'all parents.
Yeah, but
fostered that.
in my case, we got it from 2 or 3 generations
Wait.
ago.
So you had Frank killing rabbit, duck, doing
I
all
ate
that, and you weren't eating seafood? Just like...
And even so, in my household, my parents like to have fish on Fridays. So every Friday night, my dad was either
Big
frying
bone
fish
buffalo.
or cooking fish or
Oh
something
my
like
gosh,
that.
Frank used to come in
But
there
for
and
me,
buffalo.
they
bone buffalo.
because I didn't want fish.
You mean, what is the same thing, Glenn?
And you say y'all be waiting till like
Yeah, he
1
was
o'clock in
smoking
the
for
morning.
about
He'd
12
smoke
hours.
them. He'd smoke them all through the night. But it takes Latanya Ward to tell you about one time she came to spend the night at my house because another specialty my dad did was sausage balls. We would have those for breakfast, and he would make sausage. He'd mix all this meat together and make them into balls and smother them in gravy, fry them and smother them in gravy, and we eat it with rice. And
For breakfast.
and one time,
Right.
Latanya.
100 years ago, they laid out a plan for where they were going to locate the church, and they strategically picked the boundaries in the city where they wanted to do it, and then they kind of listed out how they were going to pick it and how they came to the site where they decided to pick it. But that's kind of the looking through those things, that's some of the first time I've seen where like there were people, how much where you pick your land and deciding to go to a place, how much it matters and what it can mean, you know, years later for people who weren't there when you're making that decision. And even like my grandparents, when they moved to Memphis so my uncle could have better school opportunities because he was about to start school, and they moved to South Memphis. My mother, when she was born, ended up going to Alton because they lived around the corner. They had no idea years later my grandmother would be the principal there, or my sister and I would go to school there. So, but you think about some of those decisions about how they decided to pick Memphis and not another city to come to, or how they decided to pick this part of town and not another area to go to. It all plays a role in, you know, years down the line when the people who weren't here to make those decisions come about. So.
And it may not be land ownership like in your own immediate ownership, but like land ownership or building ownership of Black businesses and Black legacy, because shoot, the legacy that you live now of working in Self Tucker, that business being in the Universal Life Building and having that communal legacy to my granddad, Mr. Hawkins, and Mr. Wiley, and all the folks that you've seen through those booklets. To me, that is like a bunch of full circle moments through just South Memphis history and like how we grew up. We had no idea, you know, when we got to hear that my granddad, you know, that you would be working there or whatever.
Yeah, and really did not pay much attention to, you know, as long as we were going downtown to Grizzly games and stuff, didn't really pay much attention to the building. And, you know, when we're here, we don't know that stuff is significant. And then when I went to DC for school, there would be people there asking me about things in Memphis that you think are just ordinary things in your neighborhood or that you see every day. And other people don't get to see things like that. So going to DC was the first time I went to school with Black people who didn't go to school with other Black people or didn't know, you know, have Black teachers or Black neighbors and things like that. And so that was a shock for me because all those people was dealing with the things they had going on, and I didn't have time for that. So it's interesting when you get to see where you come from and how it can be a unique experience for a lot of people, but I guess it's a unique experience for us because people don't have a connection that they know of where, you know, you can trace back to your grandparents or your great-grandparents or to, you know, working in the same place as somebody you might know, or maybe even knowing people different ages as you know, having a relationship with people like that. So.
It's a shame that we're not brought up learning about our place in culture and history, especially in this city, because there are people on the other side of the world, people in Europe and everywhere else who know more about the history here in Memphis, the music history, than we do. And they appreciate it more, and they travel all the way here just to experience it. And, you know, speaking of land, at that time in the early 90s, they had already torn down the original Stax building, Stax recording studio. And the work that I did at the time in the tourism industry, I had to host a lot of journalists from around the world and take them around and show them different sites around the city. All of them would come here knowing about Stax music, the Stax studio, and they wanted to see it. And I would always have to tell them, well, it's been torn down. It's not there anymore. They didn't care. They just wanted to go to that piece of land where that history that they knew about happened. And they literally, I'd drive them over there and they would get out of the car and just stand in the spot where the building had once been, just to experience it and just to see the neighborhood that cultivated that kind of history. So when you think about land and the significance of that, land is so significant in that, you know, you could not vote unless you own land. So that left out who? Black people. It left out women because those folks couldn't own land at one time. So land has a huge importance in just how you move through life and how you carry on your legacy. Those are the things. Even now they say, you know, real estate, owning something, some type of real estate is how you can leave a legacy. Cars and all those things don't have any value, but land does.
Probably when realize who's there for you, because, you know, not until you faced with that challenge and the people who are actually there, not the people who, you know, just call, but people who are there and stop by and there for you to cry on the shoulder or talk to. That's when you realize, you know, who your true family is, because family isn't always about blood, because those people are your family, but you don't choose them. But then you have your extended family, which you kind of choose, you know, throughout life, and so your family can be a collaboration of people throughout your life who are there for you when you need them. So that's when you realize who your family is, either blood or non-related. So that's when you realize who your family is and who's there for you.
History has a strange way of putting you in places that you don't necessarily think you need to be in. And this meal came about because of your clairvoyance on what you're trying to accomplish with this project. And the meal, and wanting to know my culture, but also your family, extended family, stuff like that. But the most important thing for me is I'm sitting here looking and listening to you guys. We're in your grandparents' home. That's now our home that eventually passed on to you and your brother. The cake, I mean, we are here doing what we're doing because of folk before us. And because of folk before us, we know who we are, more importantly, what we have to do to move forward, because there are going to be others, like our grandkids, and you guys are going to prosper, stuff like that. But your pride comes from around this table and the parents that bore us and stuff like that. So that's why food is so important, because it reminds you of who you are. Who you are.